you feeding?
Pardon?
What are you feeding?
We're going to feed red peas. Yeah. Hey guys, we're just going to give it a couple of minutes for everyone to join, and then we'll get started with the talk and feeding.
Alrighty. Well, I think we've got a few people started, so a few people joined, so we might get started. But welcome everyone to another Maru Koala and Animal Park live Friday feeding. Now, my name is Tristan, and I do have a very special friend with me already, Lenny, and you may have already seen one of our other friends, Murray. He's up in our little climbing gym. But it is a Reptile Friday feeding today, so the weather hasn't really been too kind to us. It's a little bit cold today, so some of our snakes probably don't want to feed today. But I thought I'd give you a little bit of an insight into some of our snakes before we feed some of our other animals here. But I do have Lenny with me, and Lenny is one of our very special snakes because he is our biggest snake here at Maru. And you may have noticed something already about him. It is what gives him his name, his black head. He is a black-headed python. So basically in Australia, a lot of our reptiles are named after what they look like. You'll notice tiger snakes got stripes on them, brown snakes coloured brown, and this black-headed python has that wonderful black head. Now, Lenny actually comes from the deserts, the arid environments in Australia, which is why he's got some of these earthy colours along the rest of his body. But this black head is also very important because he does live in those arid or desert environments. And basically, he's got these solar-powered panels on top of his, on all over his scales. But this black colour is actually able to absorb a lot more of that UV very quickly compared to some of the other colours. That's just like if you go out in summer, you wear a white shirt or a black shirt, you're going to feel warmer in that black shirt. So he can actually absorb more of that UV quicker so that he can actually get from his nice cool cave and then out across that hot sand so that he doesn't burn his belly. Just like if you go to the beach and you're wearing, or you're not wearing any shoes, any thongs, and you have to tiptoe across that hot sand. These guys, they get enough energy so they can get quick enough across that hot desert sand and get to the next cool area. Now, living in the desert, Lenny is a specialist. He actually likes to feed on other reptiles out in the wild. And that's because you're going to find a lot more reptiles in that desert environment. So Lenny does like to feed on lots of different lizards and even other snakes. And you can see that lovely head. He's just thinking that maybe that camera is something he can climb up. But as you may see as well, that tongue is flicking out every now and then. Snakes, they do have a very special way they smell, and that is through that forked tongue. So that forked tongue goes out from their mouth and picks up scent in the air and actually goes up inside of the roof of their mouth into an organ called the Jacobson's organ. So that's where they actually have their nose. It's up inside the roof of their mouth. Rather than the nostrils you may see on the front of Lenny's face, they're mainly used for breathing because when you are a snake, you have to swallow your food whole. And if you've got that food inside of your mouth, you need to be able to still breathe. So that tongue is constantly flicking out and picking up the scent. And basically, if you've got more scent on one side, you're going to follow the scent that way. More scent on the other side, you're going to follow it the other way. So everything a snake is doing is basically scent detection. And then they want to find a place that they can go and camouflage, which is why you can see these nice earthy colours to blend into those nice colours that you find in the desert, like your yellows, your browns, your reds. So for a python like Lenny, a black-headed python, he's going to be an ambush predator. He's going to sit and wait, camouflaged into the environment, waiting for an animal to come to him. So generally, they'll find a nice wildlife trail where animals like to generally move every day, and then they'll sit along that trail, wait for those animals to go past, and being a python, you are a constrictor. So once you are camouflaged, you see that animal pass, you're going to grab onto that food and you're going to wrap your body around it and use these wonderful muscles to squeeze your prey. So being a constrictor, you have to fight with your prey. Unlike a lot of our venomous snakes here in Australia that actually have that venom that they can inject into the animal and wait for that animal to die, our pythons, they have to fight with their food. So that's why a lot of pythons, they have to make sure they pick the right type of food to challenge, because if it's too big, you could get injured, and then that's not going to end well for both you and the prey. So these pythons, they choose the right size meal, because actually inside of their mouth, instead of having fangs like a venomous snake, they have about 100 curved needle-like teeth, shaped like fishing hooks, which means once they grab onto something, it's very hard to get your mouth off quickly. So you want to make sure you bite the right thing, which is why these are the best kind of snakes for us to play with, because we don't have to worry about them wanting to bite us. Now, we might move on to one of our other snakes. If you want to have a look, you're going to see just how good they are at climbing through trees. Now, Murray here, he's actually a different type of python to what we saw Lenny. Lenny is that black-headed python. Murray here, he's actually called an inland carpet python. So he actually comes from areas a little bit more inland, but not as far inland as those desert or arid environments. So you can see those wonderful colours that Murray has that are a bit darker to blend in with the different kind of forests that he's going to be found in. Some of those eucalypt forests have a little bit darker colours, so he can blend into that environment. Now, using their muscles, they're able to climb through trees. That's a very good way to avoid being eaten by animals on the ground, such as dingoes, foxes, feral cats, and even some of our native quolls. But these muscles are also very, very special for locomotion anywhere they go. So they actually have some very special muscles that can actually ripple down their body, which actually pretty much act like feet. So they can actually, and rather than sliding everywhere, they're actually using their muscles and walking. So these pythons, they're going to find some good sources of food up in the tree, especially baby birds in nests. They're always a good source of food, and that obviously, like I said, you can avoid being eaten by any predators.
So I've had a couple of questions. How old are the snakes and how much do they weigh?
Well, that is a good question. We do like to measure and weigh our snakes every now and then, and obviously we like to keep a track of how old they are, because most snakes are going to live around 10 to 30 years, depending on the species of snake. So some of our snakes here, they're about 8 years old. So they've been doing quite a lot of growing, and certainly getting a little bit of weight to them. But it's a little bit different. You don't really... you think they're going to weigh a little bit more, but they actually don't weigh that much. They're only actually about 3 kilograms, up to our Lenny, who's actually probably about 5 kilograms. So we don't really have really heavy snakes here at the park. One of our snakes we used to have got up to be about 10 kilograms. But really, it's all that awkward weight. It's not like picking up a cat or a dog, which is all the weight in one spot. These snakes have the weight distributed all across their body, so we're only looking at about 3 to 5 kilos for our snakes, and most of our snakes are around that 8 years of age. So they're all around middle age. But a lot of our reptiles, they pretty much grow every single day of their lives. There's no really stopping that growth apart from not eating much food and not getting much UV. You can slow that growth, but they're going to grow every single day of their lives. Now, it looks like we might start feeding some of our other animals. We might get a few of the other animals out, because we do have a few different types of reptiles here, and there's about 5 different groups of reptiles. So we've had a look at some snakes, but now it's time to have a look at one of our lizards. So this is actually one of our shingleback lizards. Now, like I said before with Lenny, you might have noticed something special about Lenny. You might notice something special about this shingleback lizard. It also has another nickname, the two-headed lizard, because you might be able to see its tail looks just like its head. Now, this is actually a very special defense mechanism, because if you're a predatory bird flying over the top, you want to pick up the animal from the tail where you're not going to get bitten. But if you can't determine which one is the non-bitey end, you might choose something else that's a little bit easier to eat. Now you might also notice there is a bit of a colour to that tongue poking out, and that's because these guys are related to one of those lizards you might find in your backyards. It's a very common lizard that a lot of people might know, the blue tongue lizard. So that blue tongue poking out actually has a very special adaptation. It's basically like sunscreen. So these lizards are poking that tongue out quite a lot, just like our snakes, so they need to make sure they don't burn their tongue. But we might actually have a look at how these guys move, because they're actually quite a slow moving lizard, which means that they need that extra defense to avoid getting eaten. Now it is a very cold day, so we'll see if our shingleback wants to eat, but we're going to have a little look at that movement. You can see those legs, they're actually wide set at the outside of the body, so they actually have to drag themselves along the ground, which makes them a little bit slower. There's some other reptiles, other lizards, that have some legs set underneath their body, which means that they can actually run really, really fast. Things like our frill-neck lizards. Now we might see if we want a little cockroach. A little cockroach here. This is a little wood roach. Nah, doesn't really seem like he wants to go for a bit of an explore. But we provide a lot of live insects to our lizards, because a lot of their feed response is based on movement. Looks like you're not too interested. It is a little bit of a cold morning here at Meru, but all of that response may be triggered when the prey, like a little an insect, moves. But these guys also do like to eat quite a lot of fruit and veggies as well, things like flowers and that. But you can see this hard scales. Looks a little bit like a dinosaur, doesn't it? This is an extra protection that our lizards have to basically make them look less appetizing. A few people out there might think it looks a little bit like a pine cone. That's what I think it looks like, and nobody really wants to eat pine cones. They don't look that appetizing. Now, we do have some other kinds of animals here. Not only do we have reptiles, but we also do have some amphibians. So we might actually have a look at some of our amphibians and see if they want to have a little feed as well. We're going to pass this one over and we're going to grab out some of our amphibians.
As we're doing that, Tristan, got a couple of questions for you. Is it true there are no pythons in the wild in Victoria?
Well, we don't really have many pythons in Victoria. Maybe up in northern Victoria you might find some pythons come down from New South Wales, but it's actually quite cold here in Victoria, so we don't really have many, if any, pythons. So we generally have only venomous snakes here. Definitely down here in southern Victoria, we've only got 3 species of venomous snake. We have the copperhead, we have the tiger snake, and we also have the red-bellied black snake. So that's also because a lot of the venomous snakes around here, they are live-bearing snakes. So they will actually give birth to live babies as opposed to laying eggs like a lot of other pythons. And a lot of reptiles, their eggs or their babies are actually determined by the temperature around them. So you might have a cold temperature will produce males, a warmer temperature will produce females. But our venomous snakes here, they can actually control that temperature by giving birth to live babies. They'll generate those temperatures inside of their own body. Now we do have one of our special green tree frogs here for you to have a look at. I'm just going to get out the second one for you. You might notice that I've been doing a little bit of spraying because these guys, they are an amphibian. That means they do live in environments both on land and in water, and they can actually have very special pores all over their skin that actually help them to breathe. So we want to make sure we can clean our hands of any dirt before we pick them up, but also to keep them nice and hydrated so that they can function properly. Now I do have some little mealworms. Let's see if they want to have a little bit of a feed. Yummy. There we go. So again, just like some of our other reptiles, a lot of the feed response is dependent on movement. So if these little mealworms like to move, our frogs decide that's a good meal and they're going to have a little munch on them.
They'll eat those roaches too. I love them.
I'll grab out some of these roaches and see if they want to have a little bit of a go of these roaches. Oh, that's a big one. There we go. Yum, yum. But you can see those special little hands as well, hands and feet, that have got very special suction cups. It's basically like they have some toilet plungers covering their hands and their feet so that they can actually climb up surfaces that are both vertical and horizontal. Yummy. There we go. We've also got some of our insects dusted in calcium to make sure that our animals, our reptiles and amphibians, are getting some of that that extra nutrients that we do like to have in their diet. You hungry for another one? You got to swallow that cockroach first. Now, these amphibians, they are closely related to our reptiles, so we like to find that we put our amphibians with our reptiles as well, because at some point they did split off and become their own very special group of animals. Looks like you're not too hungry. You had those big cockroaches. Let's see if we can grab...
But we've had a great question that actually brings up how they eat, is why do they close their eyes when they're eating?
So that is a good question, because they do have some very sensitive eyes, and they actually have a third eyelid. Because they spend a lot of time in the water, they've got almost a pair of goggles, but they close their eyes because if you're going to grab some food, you don't want that food, an insect, to grab onto your eye, to scratch your eye, because if you can't see, like I said, the food response in our reptiles and our amphibians is very movement orientated. So if you can't see your prey, you're going to be very, very hungry. So by covering up those eyes when they eat, it gives them that opportunity to protect the eyes after you've scooped that animal into your mouth. Looks like they're pretty set on what they've fed right there. But these guys, they do come from up north in the tropical areas of Australia. So they've got that nice green colour to blend into that rainforest environment. Like we were talking about Lenny being an arid animal, and then Murray being a temperate animal. Basically, these frogs have that colour to blend into that nice rainforest. Oh, there we go. Now we might pop our frogs back and we might actually have a look at some of our other animals that might want to feed inside of their enclosure. But these frogs here, they are very, very full of character, and I certainly love to feed these guys. On a warmer day, it might be a little bit more of a food response. But there we go. We've got a few of those reptiles and amphibians, but we want to show you some of our larger lizards that are a carnivore. So we're going to move through into our reptile house. We're going to have a look at some of our lace monitors. Now if you have a look up here, we've got a couple of them having a little bit of a bask under that nice heat lamp. And these are two of our lizards called B1 and B2. And these guys are from that temperate environment as well. So you can see those colours which are very similar to what Murray looked like. Those yellows and those dark black and brown colours to help blend into their environment as well. But these guys are actually quite a fast lizard. And like I said before, they're a carnivore. So we've got some very special bits of food for them. Something that they may find out in the wild, because they are great climbers. As you can see, excellent at climbing. So we've got some of these eggs that they would find up in the tree, and they can use their very powerful jaws and sharp teeth to break into them and eat either the little baby birds or even drink the yolk. So we do have lace monitors indigenous to pretty much all of the East Coast, and we do have some another species, a parenti, that actually is found in the deserts of Australia as well. So we have these goanna or lace monitor type lizards pretty much all over Australia, but they're just found in different colours as you go to different parts of Australia. So this is our East Coast lace monitor, and they have this kind of a coloration as you go pretty much all along the East Coast. And then you will find some, oh, there we go, cracked it open. Now going to go and have a little lick of all of that yolk inside. Really having a go there. So these guys are actually really closely related to another animal that people might know, the Komodo dragon, which is the largest lizard in the world. But these guys are actually still young lace monitors. They can actually grow to be about 2 to 2.5 meters. So these guys are still only juvenile. They've got plenty of growing to do, and they can get quite large. So they're actually the second largest lizard in the world, and they're actually our largest here in Australia. Now we do have the parenti, which is actually the longest lizard in Australia. They can grow to be about 2.5 to 3 meters in length. But these guys are the biggest. They get quite stocky, quite large, and you can see those really thick muscles that they have in their legs and even in their tail, which is very, very good for climbing up those trees, but also is very good for making sure they are quick. Because also, when you are a juvenile, you could be eaten by things like eagles. They could certainly fly down and pick you up, but with the speed that they have, those legs set a little bit underneath them. When they do stand up properly, they do have those legs set underneath their body so that they can run faster. They can pick their body up off the ground and they can move with great speed. They are much quicker than a human. 4 legs are generally faster than 2.
How many eggs would they eat a day?
Well, it depends on what they find, but out in the wild, if you're going to climb up into a tree, you might find that there's maybe 3 or 4 eggs in the tree, and they're quite greedy guts. They'll take the opportunity to eat all of them. So if there is not a mother bird protecting those eggs, they'll just eat all of those eggs at that time until someone comes and tells them they can't. So they're going to take on as much energy as possible in one go. So they could eat more than the 4, but depending on how many eggs you'll find in that nest, they're going to be opportunistic and eat all of them.
And Leo wants to know how fast they run.
Oh, well, I don't know the exact speed, but they are much quicker than a human. They could probably run maybe 20 to 30 kilometers an hour. That's how quick they can be. They will definitely outrun a human. There's people that have tried to, get up close to them, and they will take off very, very quickly. Yeah. Looks like our other lizard, our other lace monitor's up there having a little look, but it's going to wait for the other one to finish up, because they do have interactions. They're not really a social animal. They will be solitary, but if you do have multiple lace monitors in an area, they will have a bit of a hierarchy. So the biggest, strongest ones will eat first, and then after that, your smaller ones will come through and get what's left. All right, well, we do have one more very special animal we want to show you, because, like I said, we've got a few different types of reptiles here. We've got our lizards, we've got our turtles, we've got our snakes, of our little water dragons. They're always pretty cute. They're always quite big movers. But we do have another group of reptiles, which are the crocodiles, the crocodilians, and we do have one special croc right here. Her name is Kimberly. So Kimberly, she is a freshwater crocodile. So she's not as big as our largest crocodiles here in Australia. She's going to only be up to about 2 meters in length. So she's about 1 meter at the moment, and she does like to sit in her nice, warm, heated pool because she comes from up north in Australia in the tropics. So that pool in there is about 28 degrees. She's not going to want to come out of there for now, because that is a beautiful spa bath for her at the moment. but she's another one of our very special groups of reptiles here in Australia, and probably one of those really old dinosaur type reptiles that we have that always are quite fascinating. I've always loved them as well. But thank you very much for joining us here today at the Friday live feeding. Again, with our reptiles, a bit colder, so a bit hard to feed all of them, but I'm sure you would have enjoyed some of our frogs feeding, and those lacies were also always pretty good. So thank you very much for joining, and we hope that we do have you come back and join our next session next Friday. And yeah, enjoy, guys. Thank you very much.
And remember, guys, if you'd love to come and see us, we are just in Grantville in Victoria, Australia. We currently have annual memberships going. So if you'd love to come and see us, you can head to our website to purchase an annual membership, and that'll last you for a full year, including times that we were closed. So if you already do have one, we do include the times that we weren't available.
So at the moment, Renee, remember there's a special with our annual membership, so it'll actually last right through till January in 2022.
Yeah. So just in case you didn't hear that, if you do get an annual membership, that'll last you through to January 2022, so you get more than a full year to come and visit us. Thank you very much, everyone.